And we're off. Welcome to, if you're watching us live, the last session of the day today, which is a conversation with people who have series in the NZ Factual part of the program. Lovely to see you all. Apologies to Sophia that you're the only woman on the panel. That's the first time I think that's happened to us in this year. Um, but you're all here. We'll jump in very shortly. I'll give you all the opportunity to introduce yourselves and the production, and then we'll start to sort of drill a little bit deeper. We're obviously not going that deep in 45 minutes, but we'll hopefully scratch the surface and get underneath it a bit. So, Sophia, you did us the courtesy of turning up first, so you can kick us off. Tell us about you and yours.
Yeah, so my name's Sophia. I am the main subject of our docu-series called This Is Real Life, which follows me. I'm a 28-year-old girl who has quadriplegia and also my cousin who helps me live my life. So I say it's about me featuring her, but she thinks it's about both of us.
Is she around or is she lurking or
No, she's not here because the
right?
show's about me, right? It makes sense.
Absolutely. Excellent. All right, Corey.
Kia ora. My name's Corey. With my deaf colleague or Turi colleague, Jared Flitcroft, have created the web series Being Turi that is looking into the deaf Māori community or the Ngāti Turi community overcoming barriers and how society has put up walls that they have to work through to overcome every day to just be able to have a normal life.
All right, thank you. Joe.
Kia ora. My name's Joe. I am a 28-year-old filmmaker slash video editor, currently based in Sydney, but I sort of base myself between here and Queenstown. And along with my colleagues, Georgia May Russ, producer, and David Jacobs, executive producer, we have made Date Talk, which is it's a 236 part short short form factual series taking a look at the state of Gen Z dating in Aotearoa.
All right.
So for the purposes of this submission that we did, TNZ Webfest, we actually just focused on the first phase because our second phase was still in production at that time. So the first phase is called Date Talk Tapes, and that was a studio shoot in November 2024, where we spoke with, I think, 36 uh, real people. And yeah, I just spoke with them and got their juiciest dating stories, and we put those out as short little snippets across 5 social media channels. And Diaries was a sort of deeper dive with 6 of the original 36, where we gave them vlogging kits and they sort of vlogged out their dating adventures for about 4 months.
Wow, that is a considerable volume of content to collect and then select from. Chris.
Kia ora, I'm Chris. Together with my wife Miriam, we produced the series Home Education for the lovely folks at the Spinoff, and that looks at the little scene world of home education, as you may have guessed, home educating across New Zealand. I hasten to add, we are not home educators or homeschoolers, but came from a place of curiousness, I guess, especially having a little person on the scene now. So our series covers or follows 6 families, each taking quite a different course through their home educating journeys, and yeah, it's a more or less a week in the life of each family.
All right, excellent. Brian.
Kia ora. I'm Brian Holland from Magnetic Pictures. I'm the producer of K Road Chronicles, which is a series about homelessness in New Zealand, largely set around Karangahape Road in Auckland. Our host is Six, who's formerly homeless, and we've made 4 seasons of the series. It's featured in Webfest in the past, and we've just completed the last season, which went out last year, and it's always been very well received. Our platform for the last 2 years has been TP Plus, which is the website home of Tangata Pacifica. We started life on Stuff, and we've been on Whakaata Māori, TVNZ, and I think even RNZ. So it's not hard to find us if you find K Road Chronicles. I've also put a link in the chat.
Great, thank you very
Nice to
much.
be here.
Good. I was at a New Zealand On Air session earlier this week, which was focused on content for kids, but it was about sort of reporting and what reporting was saying about audiences and specifically kids audiences, where they are, how they behave, an enormous amount of numbers and data to wade through. But the CEO, Cam Harland, at one point during the session said our North Star is audience, which is where we're going with this question, is sort of nobody makes stuff to stick it in a drawer and never have anybody see or hear or watch it. So who was the audience who was in your minds when you started off down this road? Joe?
Yeah, so we tailored this concept to an initiative by New Zealand On Air called Within My Reach. And that was, the mandate for that was either scripted or factual content for vertical consumption on vertical social media platforms, specifically for 18 to 24-year-olds. So that was always the goal. And I think that's why we chose to speak with, sorry, it was 15 to 24-year-olds we were trying to reach, but we chose to speak with 18 to 24-year-olds for obvious reasons. And yeah, that was kind of that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Chris?
Our audience being hosted through the spin-off was clearly, I mean, I don't know how to define the spin-off audience, but certainly intellectually curious. We also knew that the home educating community, through our research, felt really underrepresented. And so we felt that they would be a significant part of our audience. And indeed they were. And the numbers of families is extraordinary. I think there was something like 10,000 families across New Zealand home educating. But also Miriam and I, our backgrounds in film. So we were looking to make sure the followers of the films we make through the film festival and that kind of world, we wanted to make something that was of interest and worthy of their time as well.
All right. Corey?
Yeah, so our series was funded by Tamango Paho, so it was really important for us to be able to hit whānau and be able to help promote not only NZSL but also Te Reo, because that's part of the mandate for the funding. So our audience, we're always trying to get sort of 20 to 45, but it turns out it's probably more 30 to 55 age range. And Wahine, it's really, really positive feedback from that demographic. And yeah, obviously we'd love moving forward potentially to have a younger rangatahi audience being a bit more engaged, knowing more about their whānau and the barriers that their whānau are overcoming. But, you can't argue with the audience stats that we've been getting back from Whakaata Māori. So we're really, really happy, and we just want to make sure that hearing communities can actually have access to this as well and understand the difficulties between Ture or deaf communities and the barriers that we're inadvertently putting in place. Even people such as myself that are hard of hearing, how just standard barriers can be an issue. So that's the audiences that we've been targeting.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that you're doing this session and that Jared is not involved in it because we couldn't find a way to make that run as smoothly as it should do is a kind of perfect example. Well, not perfect. There's nothing good about it, but it's an example of, those kinds of challenges and how we get past them. I will come on to potential solutions for these sorts of things further down the line, but for now, Sophia.
Yeah, I think our series was directed towards young people, but really the goal was for anyone who wanted to learn about disability to watch it, because I think disability is quite an intimidating thing to a lot of people. And I think my cousin and I are very good at making it an approachable subject. So yeah, we just wanted to put a resource out there for anyone. But I think the targeted audience was young people.
All right, thank you. Brian.
We first got funded under special interest, which is now New Zealand On Air's renamed it what do they call it now? Priority audiences. We argued that New Zealand's homeless community was a special interest category. We had a conversation before the round came out, and they said, look, we don't see homelessness as a special interest group. However, your host is transgender. So we've ticked that box and we got funded. So that was great. So but we set out to make a show that demystified homelessness to a general audience. And we've managed to reach that North Star every season. If you add the 7 or 8 episodes per season together, whether we're on Stuff or on TP Plus, we can get to around about 120, 140,000 views across the series total. For Kata Māori, when they run it on their linear channel, and they also put it on Māori Plus. And when we look at the ratings data, you actually get a little spike when it comes on. So we were delighted by that. It means actually that people are aware of the show and are reacting to it and watching it. And I've been in this game a long time. For the first time ever, it's nice to have a show where you actually, when people ask you what you do and you mention the name of the show, they go, "Oh, I've seen that." And so it's that's always really nice.
Good. Hey, Joe, in because you went out on quite a range of platforms, did you achieve what you were hoping to by that? I mean, don't tell us confidential numbers and stuff like that, but in terms of where you hoped it was going, was it doing what you expected it to do, or were there surprises in there?
Yeah, it was definitely, since within my reach, the funding initiative was very experimental in itself. We sort of felt empowered to experiment with the distribution of it as well. We made our own Deck Talk branded social channels, and we sort of started from zero, which is probably not something that's traditionally been approved of or allowed, but we're allowed to self-distribute, which was very cool, but it was also put all the responsibility on us to figure out a strategy that worked. So we rolled out on Instagram Reels, TikTok, Snapchat, Spotlight, Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And yeah, we had a very mixed sort of response views-wise between the platforms, but the strongest were definitely Instagram Reels and TikTok. So it was very interesting. So I sort of personally, I had thought that Snapchat might have been a big numbers one for us, just because there were numbers that came out of Snapchat last year, sort of saying how the sort of very young end of Gen Z are very engaged on there. But I think in the end that was more, I think it's more used as a messaging tool than to consume content, even though there are content consumption areas in the app. But essentially, yeah, we had mixed response, but we were very happy with what we got on Instagram and TikTok. And I think on the whole, across the 5 channels with the hundreds of episodes, we had about 2 million views on the content.
All right. In terms of the different platforms, were you putting out platform-specific stuff, or was it basically, apart from any technical changes that were required for different platforms, that's what it is. It's just in all these different places.
Yeah, it was part of the process actually through post-production was finding a deliverable that worked everywhere because we just didn't have the time or resource
No.
to create platform-specific versions of everything, which was kind of a nightmare with like, if you can imagine, title safe on all these different platforms. So we ended up with this tiny box inside the video frame that we could actually use for things like subtitles and everything. But anyways, yeah, it was a sort of blanket deliverable for each, and we used social media software to automate the posting of it largely as well.
All right. Corey, in terms of the platforms that you go out on, if you had a free hand, are there other platforms that you like to put it on because you think they've got value for as routes to the audience that you're seeking to attract?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to have it go onto a bigger global streaming service. Naturally, a lot of people want that. I'd love it to be able to actually the series to be on airlines because I think it's a series that you can sit down because it has English, NZSL, New Zealand Sign Language, and Te Reo all running simultaneously. You can tune in and tune out and be reading, if you want to, the English subtitles, or if you want to upskill in either NZSL or Te Reo to an extent, you can be doing that and just chilling in the airline and learning a bit about New Zealand as well, because we don't just ignore Aotearoa. We obviously are talking about society and the beautiful country it is. So, that's ideally we would love to go down the line.
All right, thank you. Chris, if you weren't with the spin-off, what would be the next place you'd want to place home education?
Well, I think possibly the closest audience would be RNZ. Though yeah, they're pretty full up at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, Sophia, would you go more or different places?
I'm not the person to be asking technical questions to. I'm just in front of the camera. I don't know. Wherever it needs to go, it can go. Someone can come up with the money.
All right, no, that's fair enough. I didn't want to talk a lot about money because we all know that there's never enough of it, and most of us would say some of the time it's not in the right places. But other than that, as something that sort of either enables or doesn't enable or challenges, I'd like you to talk about something that was a challenge in terms of making this show and how you overcame it, or whether you had to say that's not something that we can overcome. We have to take a different route to get where we're going. Brian, I'll ask you to start just because you've had 4 stabs at it with
No disrespect to the homeless, but they won't often turn up when they say they're going to turn up. So you often have to go looking for them down K Road and just remind them that they have an interview. But we learned that in season 1, and we're adaptable. And we didn't really have much really get in the way of it's a pretty smooth shoot, really. I mean, from time to time we had to reschedule things, but that happens with anything. And, yeah, no challenges really.
Gosh, hands up who'd like to be able to say that. So, yeah, my hand's definitely going up there. It's going. Sophia, how about you?
We had quite a big challenge. We were filming an episode at Laneway Festival, and I really didn't want to go. But I actually ended up developing a pressure sore, and so I couldn't sit in my wheelchair, and so I couldn't go to the festival. And so my cousin had to go to the festival and FaceTime me into the festival. So that was a big challenge, but it worked in my favor because I didn't have to go. So yeah, that was probably our biggest challenge.
All right, and apologies. to you for asking for hands up there. That was spectacularly stupid on my part. But, I apologise. So, Corey.
Yeah, so one of the things that we came across really quickly is the lack of trilingual interpreters. And because we want to we're promoting English, Te Reo Māori, and NZSL, when our Ture were signing, the interpreters were having to double up in cases to get the right wording for the signs that were being delivered. So post-production, it took us a lot longer than expected to make sure that what had been verbally recorded behind the scenes from the interpreters was correct to the signs. And then once the NZSL was locked in and the edit was in place, because everything falls off the interviewee's signing, so all the English, all the Te Reo voiceover all falls off that. Then we had the Te Reo come in on top, which, as people know, Te Reo Māori doesn't necessarily line up with English. The wording structure is slightly different, or can be quite different. So I had to figure out how I was going to play with the B-roll in order to make sure everything, all three, lined up as acutely together as possible. So we've found out ways how to move forward with that and to make it more seamless. But yeah, that was and will always be a big challenge.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Well, I guess I mean anything observational, gaining the trust of your subjects and inserting yourself into their lives for an extended period of time is always, I mean, that's a given. It's always challenging, or can often be challenging. But I guess what was unique for us in this series was that it was just me doing everything. Typically it would be Miriam and I, me on the camera, Miriam on the boom. But as I said before, we've got a little person now, so it was just me out there on the camera doing the sound, trying to ask semi-coherent questions when the time came, and actually a lot of the time that was absolutely fine, because to not have many people around it's a really nice way to work. It's really intimate and not intimidating for the subjects. But you're doing like a two-person interview with two cameras, with sound equipment not working right, and the clouds coming in and out of, the light changing. Like honestly, there was a few times I just had to have a cup of tea and almost lie down. But yeah.
You said it was kind of a week in the life with each of your subjects. How long did it take to get that week?
It was literally 7 to 8 days. And we might give the host family a day off in the middle of that, where I'd shoot around shooting landscapes or pickups. So it was a block.
So it was a week as opposed to
rather than extend it out.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
Joe.
asking a lot.
Yeah, it is. Joe, how was wrangling 36 horny young people?
Yes. That was it was a very interesting week, that one. We shot in a little studio, mini street studio in Eden Terrace in Auckland, and definitely my first time interviewing that number of people. We did sort of pre-chats with about 80 people, I think, and selected the participants out of that. And we were offering a Prezi card, which meant they did turn up, most of them on time, which was great. Which is actually a blessing considering the sort of age group and everything as well. I know we can be flaky sometimes. But yeah, most of our participants were students, because we did the bulk of our casting came through student job search, which was really, really a huge help for us. And yeah, the shoot itself was 7 days, and I was interviewing 6 people a day for about an hour each. So it was extremely energy intensive for someone who's like an introvert as well. It was it was hard for the first sort of 3 days, I'd say, but then I sort of just leaned into it and got used to it and leaned on the crew more for like just helping me out wherever possible so that I could just focus on having these conversations. And we went to some dark places with some people as well. So I didn't find it particularly taxing from that perspective, but we did have a wellness chaplain on set who had, his name's Kevin, he runs a company called Film Chaplain, and he brought in his caravan. He was like, it's got like a fancy espresso machine in it, so he was making coffees for all the participants as they arrived and having like a 5 minute chat with them and just sort of priming them to come in the room with me and then having an exit chat with them as well, just to debrief and see how they were feeling after sometimes oversharing. And yeah, that alleviated things for everyone. I think the crew found it really great as well to have a counselor on the shoot. And I think we avoided a crisis or two by extension off that as well. So yeah, it was hard, that's for sure, but I had amazing people around me, so I was able to do it.
Mhm. The oversharing one is a nice segue to where I was going to go next, which was how much editorial control did you give subjects, both either in terms of allowing them to be part of the post-production process, or in terms of allowing them to say you can't use that once they blurted it out. Sophia, let's start with you because you're in the unique position of being the blurter, really, in that scenario.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had no say.
Well, I think you need a better agent.
I actually don't have an agent, so yeah.
Well, yes, definitely then. Corey, how was it for you and the people on Tory?
Well, we had Māori consultants with us the whole way through, the same with NZSL consultants. So our interviewees afterwards, they had the option to look at what we'd cut and approve, but Jared worked with them quite a lot behind the scenes as well. So he would communicate with them because it was really hard trying to show them something that they might not be able to keep up with at the same time, or understand necessarily why we've changed to B-roll, etc., trying to find that balance. So he'll talk through with them quite a lot, but we didn't have a lot of real pushback. All our interviewees just sort of went, we've opened ourselves to you, just let it happen as long as we don't come out looking like absolute eggs, so.
All right, Brian.
We always go into a show like K-Road Chronicles and another sister series we have called Breaking Silence, which is also featured in Webfest. It's in partnership with our subjects. We certainly don't want to put anyone in a position where they say something and then regret it. So while we don't give them final cut, we certainly will show them episodes and get their feelings on them. But generally, we can take those kind of things out ourselves. If somebody admits to drug taking and we think, well, that's probably not the best thing for you to say, we might just nip that bit out, especially if it wasn't part of the narrative anyway, because quite often things can be said, they segue out. So you kind of, you shoot a lot more, as you all know, than you're ever going to need. So, we have sometimes, self-censored people for them on their behalf, but
Right.
we don't want to get anyone embarrassed or in trouble. So we always have a very robust duty of care. For K-Road Chronicles, we would never put anyone on screen that shouldn't be on screen. That kind of harks back to a series we did for Whakata Māori and Māori television back in the day called The Nutters Club, which was a mental health series. And to come on that show, you had to have come out the other end and proudly wearing the T-shirt before you got the story. And that's kind of what we've done with K-Road Chronicles to a lesser extent. but certainly not going out there to expose anyone or shame anyone. So.
Yeah. Chris, in terms of what you did, obviously you were dealing with minors, so there's kind of one or two different legalities involved there. But how were you making your decisions?
Yeah, well, much like Brian, actually, in our process, like it usually is we encourage a dialogue before, during, after, and we take any concerns on board and take them really seriously. We always screen the rough cut to the subjects, and they are entitled to their response. Whilst we won't give them the full final cut, we do take their feedback very seriously. But because we generally try and ensure that if there's any niggles, any worries that are happening throughout the shoot, by the time we get to a rough cut, there usually isn't anything that we need to contend with. And the fact is, yeah, I mean, with this series, everyone felt like it needed to be made and things need to be said. And yeah, and of course, I'm careful about what I show and what I shoot, what I cut in, cut out. Yeah.
Yes, it's I wouldn't think that anybody is in the business of trying to exploit or trying to create clickbait and things like that with these productions, which is quite nice, really, because there's a lot of that stuff going on elsewhere. I mentioned earlier, and we're into the last question now, but I mentioned earlier that, sort of ways to mitigate some of the challenges. I mean, obviously, there's a whole raft of AI tools that have sort of come to the fore, and they're by no means finished in terms of their growth and development. So from a purely technical point of view, there's some stuff that makes some things easier. From a producer's point of view, if you like, do you have an opinion about their value, either from both a practical sense and an ethical sense in how you might or might not use them, and are there other things that you sort of learnt on this journey that would sort of, if you were to hop back in time to day one of the project, is there something that you could see a better way of doing now that you've been through it, which would work if you were to get subsequent seasons out of it? Joe?
Yes, AI is a very loaded topic. What I would say is it probably depends on the tools you're using, right? If it's supplementary to the production workflow and it's empowering people to do work better, then that's great. But if it's replacing people throughout that process in a way that's sort of makes it less human, then that's kind of a bit of a loss, in my opinion. But we did use we had used AI throughout Date Talk. In post, we had 5 or 6 people participate in tapes anonymously, and so we just shot them with a sort of silhouetted front and a colored background. And we used an AI tool to change their voice, but to keep the original sort of intonation and everything, but make them sound like a different person, which was really interesting to use. And sort of helped us out because we couldn't afford to get voice actors to sort of re-record this material either. So that was very interesting. I would admit that I resorted to using ChatGPT to help with some interview prompts on the day at times because I was running so short on time that I was sort of building a set list of questions for each person based on their background. So that did help me out a few times. But aside from that, yeah, we didn't really make use of AI generally. And I can't think how we might in the future. Oh, actually, one other thing that helped me during post, we transcribed all of the interviews, and that would have been cost prohibitive for us because there was about 40 hours of interview material from the first phase alone. And it's now built into the edit software that we use. So it was just hit a button, and then that allowed me, because I was editing it myself, to watch down on my first pass at double speed, and still be able to sort of properly digest what was being said. So that was very helpful.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, like Joe, I've used the AI noise reduction quite a lot and leaned on that quite heavily at times, especially having to do a lot by myself in the field. But transcription has been helpful actually when you need to find it one line when a mic cuts out and you've got 10 hours of audio to sift through. But frankly, the beauty of documentary, particularly observational for us, is the fact that it is 100% authentic. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when anything's going to happen. And it's capturing those moments that are like too good to be true. You could never write them. Like that's AI proof, and that's what I'm interested in. The AI is great tools, makes the job easier, but fundamentally, it can't make certainly observational cinema, that's for sure.
Yeah. Corey?
Like Joe and Brian, Chris, sorry, we used Turbo Scribe for translations in this case because the interpreters were narrating everything as they were signing in a mic, and we had also 40 to 50 hours worth of dialogue, and there was no way I could learn all that. I don't sign fluently. I'm still learning that as my hearing goes. So there was no way I could just watch it all and know exactly what they're saying. And it turns out one of the things that then was compounded from that, which AI would never be able to help with, is at this point anyway, try to say, is that if the signer's got the sign slightly, interpreter's got the sign slightly wrong to what was being done, signed by the interviewees. So transcribing everything gave me a chance to go through and then go back to the signs with Jared and make sure that we had the right words and the right meanings, because if we got the meanings wrong, and at this point AI can't understand meaning or interpretation. So but otherwise, no, we didn't really touch AI.
All right, Brian?
We had one quite interesting thing crop up. We had Ella Wells, who's our director on season 4, was sitting down with Six, our host, and Six was giving us a great kind of an interview grab, and Ella accidentally jumped in on top of her and started to ask the next question, and Six carried on. And when it came time to post, we wanted to use the entire piece with Six, but Ella's voice was coming in over the top. And we asked the sound mixer if he could remove Ella's voice. And he said, no, I can't do that. But what I can do is I can recreate Six's voice saying exactly what she was saying at the point that Ella interjected. So there was that. So that was pretty cool. And on one of our other broadcast series, just recently, we had a shoot come back that was soft. And apparently AI can sharpen footage that's soft. So I haven't seen the results of that. That's not a show that I'm working on. But and then ChatGPT is quite often good for research. If you ask it to find articles about things and then summarize them into a page, it can really help you in your research. So that's about where we are with AI. Nothing.
Yeah, I use it like that in my day job for information gathering and saving me time, because the number of people who put out 80-page reports is depressing. Sophia, I'm sort of guessing in that what you experience mostly is physical challenges, and lots of people say I don't like AI. I just wish it learned to do the fucking laundry. Are there any sort of AI tools that have value for you?
No, for a disabled person, I probably don't use technology as much as I could. I'm kind of a little bit stubborn in the fact that the less that I rely on technology, the more I can go into a different environment and function. So yeah, I just try to kind of use normal things that I can have access to everywhere, so that I don't end up in a sticky situation.
I think AI will be everywhere long before you reach my age. It's a so you'll have plenty of opportunity to play with it as the years go on. All right. Thank you very much, all of you, for giving up some of your Sunday afternoon and talking with us. It's been very good. I hope we'll see some, if not all of you, at the awards that run next weekend. But until then, thank you for being part of this conversation.
Thanks, Keith, for
Awesome.
everything you do for us.